Defund the judges in the Judge Dredd universe. Right, well, just roll the outro music, I guess. There's nothing I can add to that. There is no absurdity I can heap upon this to make it worse. There is no exaggeration or comedic overplay I can commit to here that makes this in any way any more inherently ridiculous. There really is no way to mock what is already mocking itself. I suppose my only real commentary here is that suffering shared is suffering halved. So it brings me great pleasure to announce to the fans of Judge Dredd that you now too have current year in your setting. Enjoy! As this is, of course, very much so current yearism, moving into Judge Dredd 2. I think I was somewhat wary of writing a Defund the Police story in Dredd's world, you don't say, when the riots were taking place in America. It just seemed a little too on the nose. Aha, yet. No shit. No shit in there, indeed. See, okay. This is, again, it's entirely from the political point of view of the authors who want to try and make a defund the police argument. Now, the defund the police argument in and of itself is pretty dumb. Putting it in the Judge Dredd universe only makes it worse. But the thing is, we don't need to have this argument. We've already had this argument just a couple of years ago. And at the time I was, do it. Defund the police. Come on, shut down the entire police department. I dare you, and we will swiftly find a resolution to this conundrum of ours. And, well, certain places in America did. And it was followed by, drumroll, a sudden spike in violent crime. Hold on to your butts, ladies and gentlemen, because that was a violent twist, wasn't it? As sharp and sudden a turn as the sun rising in the fucking morning. And the various cities that did indeed try this swiftly reversed course and refunded the police. Because as it turns out, human society, to remain a society, does indeed need laws and order. I know, shocking. It's only something we've known for an absolute fact for the last, 10,000 odd years as a species, but hey, details. Surely it's changed in the last few decades, right? But, okay, let's approach this from a bit more of a straight-up honest perspective, right? So, there is, I didn't want to talk about this before there was at least 2 issues of this storyline out, and already the plot is beginning to move in a little bit of a different direction, because quite often Judge Dredd storylines will do this. They will give you a good thing, it'll open up like, hey, look at this, isn't this working out just lovely? And then it'll twist it around and go like, that was actually a pretty terrible idea. Like when they try to introduce robot judges, for example. Like, oh, they can, reference the entire law in milliseconds, it'll be great. Then they became a little bit tyrannical, just a pinch, and they had to scupper the entire program. And already in issue 2, there are hints that this is what they're going for in this story as well. As, to give you some backstory here, Judge Maitland, which I could swear to God she was black in original stories, and I even looked it up, and yes, she was, making this a very rare case of a reverse race swap. Which I don't really know what to make of. Maybe I've missed some part where they de-blackified her in a magical unblackening machine in the Judge Dredd universe. It's entirely possible. Or maybe the 2 writers in question just don't know a whole lot about Judge Dredd. It certainly does seem to be an indication in that direction, as maybe the reason why the crimes had fallen in the test district that Maitland was given was because another major criminal had been recruiting tons and tons of henchmen. Thus, since there weren't a whole lot of criminals in the area, crime did indeed go down. Now, whether or not that is the direction they're going to go in, we won't know until there are further issues out, but initially, what the point the storyline was trying to push was the idea that education would improve things in Mega City 1. If only people were educated, they'd stop committing crimes. Alright. So this comes a little bit again from a current year perspective, where they talk about here how the judges are unabashed fascists who have stomped out pro-democracy movements in the past. And that is actually, unironically, rarely enough, within walking distance of the truth. I know, shocking coming from, anything modern day, but the judges are fairly fascistic. The only difference would be, well, one, they have actually allowed democracy referendums, and the people in Megacity 1 voted against democracy, so there's that. And secondly, they do not venerate the state, which is of course what fascists do, so in reality, we'd need another term for them, something along the lines of theocracy, like a lawocracy, where they place the law as a superior institution above the state again, but again, we're nitpicking here. It is again within walking distance of the truth, as I mentioned. However, this came from a not experiment, but as something that Maitland did after the Apocalypse War, or the Chaos Day, where she transferred a group of criminal juvies, so criminal delinquents essentially, from one block that had been bombed out to another block that happened to be nicer than the one they'd been in previously. And she noted that, hey, they're committing less crimes now. I wonder why. Now, the natural and logical explanation to that is that you gave a bunch of criminal delinquents better houses for free. You gave them stuff, and now they have nice stuff, and suddenly the people who have nice stuff are going, wait a hold on a second, I don't want my nice stuff to be burglarized, as echoed with certain tweets around the race riots in America, for example, where it was, burn those other people's stuff, and hold on there, don't come into my gated community, that's my stuff. But Maitland then saw, okay, so giving people nicer stuff will keep them a little bit more calm, right? And fair enough, there's a logic in that. But here's the issue. This would not work in the Judge Dredd universe, because education is not going to automatically give you better things. The unemployment rate in Megacity 1 is 97%. Okay? Unless you are in a very specific branch, something that absolutely, unquestionably must be done by humans, which in the case of Megacity 1 is largely entertainment, really, or judges, indeed, or something like that, you're not going to have a job. And education really isn't going to help you much here. Unless you turn this into a groundbreaking career or some sort of private initiative like starting your own business, this isn't going to really help you much. Not to mention, Megacity 1 was overpopulated before Chaos Day. Now it is even worse. Improving your life in Megacity 1 is really gosh darn difficult. And so, the whole idea that if you just improve education and defund the judges, you'll suddenly have less crime doesn't make sense within the setting. And that is how they're writing it. Now, we'll see if they do the twist. As I mentioned, maybe the crime rates went down because of recruits from other criminal warlords. Entirely possible. But they also present the opposition. Who are the bad, mean old guys in this story? Well, it's those evil alt-right YouTubers. Yes, the conspiracy theorists. I believe they specifically mention this, where one of the bad people, they mention in like Fox News and GB News or something. There we go, yeah? There's a media mogul, Robert Glenn, who, in Fox News GB News styles, sees an opportunity to weaponize this, promote his own business interests. Consequences be damned. Oh. So you're saying is that there's a guy that uses this to push his own political point of view, his own agenda. Wow, that is pretty terrible. Hold on. What are you doing right now? Authors? What are you doing right now, writers? We're pushing our own ideology in Judge Dredd. Yes, that's correct. Are you at least making your own thing to push it? No, we're abusing somebody else's thing to do it. Okay, so you're worse than Fox News and GB News then, because at least they have created their own things, and you can disagree with their points of view, but at the very least they have built an audience based on their points of views. You are merely shanghaiing another audience to further your politics. If Fox News and GB News are the scum, then you are the rats that eat it, and there is no mistaking that. Especially as, again, this does not function in this universe. Maitland is presented as a bit more of a pragmatist, right? She's doing this because of the numbers. She sees crimes going down, but even mentions that there seems to be something she's missing, indicating again that there's going to be some sort of a twist. And that would be the best way to go about this, though even then the presumptions are wrong on the face of it. Improving the lives of citizens in Megacity 1 would make the city better. There's nobody who's disputing that. What is the problem is whether or not it is possible. Could the, to take a 40k example, could the Imperium of Man be more liberal? Could it be a better place to live for its people? Absolutely, sure. But would that destroy the Imperium in the process? Probably yes. Why? Because it's currently being besieged by aliens. That's why. It's the same thing in Megacity 1. Could you conduct sweeping liberal reforms? Absolutely. But you are dealing with a city with a 97% unemployment rate, where a lot of the crime is caused not just by necessity, but by people being bored to death, wanting any kind of stimulus whatsoever, to the point where they adopt more and more ridiculous over-the-top personas just to get some sort of satisfaction into their boring, dredging lives. It is like the worst lower hive city scum you can imagine in 40k. If you try to give them more privileges, in all due likelihood, they're going to abuse the living shit out of them. And so, you can't just go like, oh, but what if we did the current year in Megacity 1? Well, Megacity 1 would in all due likelihood collapse into anarchy like that. Because the judges are the thin red line, in their case, or blue, depending on their uniforms or helmets, which actually keep the city from collapsing. Even more so after Chaos Day. Even so more after the Apocalypse War, etc. The city was overpopulated to begin with. It is over capacity. It had a hard time feeding people before a massive portion of it was glassed. It is so much worse now. The judges are already overstretched. The judges are already losing control. And your argument is to resign more control, hoping that the primary problem of Megacity 1, its out-of-control, wild and savage populace, will suddenly stop being out of control? So goddamn stupid. Not to mention even also, as there are also alien species in the Judge Dredd universe. There are also external threats that might look at Megacity 1 suddenly defunding not just their police force, mind you, but their military, which the judges also stand for, reducing their state, their governance, and their ability to rule over their territories and think, hey, a free lunch. As that was kind of the Apocalypse War, remember? And there are several other major megacities in the world too. It is a very poorly thought out idea that doesn't really work, not in the universe, and doesn't really work in reality either. This idea that they're just, putting forth a question like, hey, maybe there's a better way of doing it. Maybe defunding the police a little bit would make the world better. No. No, it wouldn't. Because we've tried it. We've tried it in real life, and the result was pretty much exactly the same as you'd expect in Megacity 1. Except, again, in a far more prosperous and far more stable society. There is still hope for redeeming this series, but the very fact that it is coming from a political current year point of view rather than an in-universe point of view suggests that at the very least, even if the series can be redeemed with, a twist at the end, the authors came about it from a rotten point of view, and it should absolutely be condemned as such. They should be labeled as, well, again, the things that are worse than the Fox News and GB News they criticize, because at least they made their own thing to push their point of view, rather than taking over somebody else's thing. Until next time, I'm an Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.